What's happening, hobby people? I have some news for you real quick before we get this video started. Now, if you remember my unboxing video from like 2 weeks ago, you'll know that Kakapopo TCG sent me a metal die to paint for their upcoming Kickstarter. Now, I wasn't able to show that die to you because it would have spoiled their Kickstarter. It would have spoiled the big reveal of their dice. Now, the Kickstarter dropped yesterday, and I can finally share with you what I did for them. So check it out. Now, if you'd like to pick up a set of these sweet dice, be sure to use the link below because a portion of that sale will come back and help this channel grow. Now, I appreciate all your help and support. Shout out to Sam from Kakapopo TCG for being so awesome, and enjoy the video. What's going on, everyone? It's Jacob from the Giant Paint Pot. If you have some Necrons from the Indominus box, or just Necrons at all, then today I'm going to teach you how to paint their power weapons. I'm not a Necron player. I think these are power weapons. They're weapons that glow. That's what I'm teaching you today. That's it. Stick around. Alright, we're going to keep things short and sweet, and then we're just going to jump right into painting. So when the Indominus box dropped, I picked it up, and a buddy of mine wanted to buy some of the Necrons out of there, and I was like, perfect, because I don't play Necrons, or Xenos, Death Watch for life. It's not my stuff.
Xenos. Die!
But I was very excited to paint them because I've never painted Necrons before, so I was like, absolutely. But the problem was, I really didn't know how to paint the weapons. You see, being a Marine player, I know how to paint all those weapons. That's second nature to me. But when it comes down to some of the different power weapons that they carry, I wasn't too familiar with it, especially the like the Gauss rifles, I think they are, Gauss cannons, Gauss rifles. I didn't know how to paint them. So I talked to some people online in my different hobby groups. I went to Instagram, I watched some videos on YouTube, and I found a bunch of different ways to paint these that I thought would work. So I kind of put them all together, I took the best of the best, and I came up with this style that I'm going to show you today. Now, saying that, you can change this to work in whatever way you'd like. The steps that I'm going to share with you today aren't set in stone, so you can kind of mix them around, you can leave something out or add something in, just make it work for you and paint some awesome models. That's all I ask. Just make them look good. And also, this style can work with any type of power weapon. You don't have to just do it with your Necrons. If you're a Marine player, this will work very, very well on like power axes, maybe a big enough power sword, specifically anything big that's glowing. I mean, this will definitely work. And the bigger, the better, actually. I noticed that the Necron with the bigger weapon is easier to paint because it's easier to do those blends and really just show the spectrum of the glow. So let's get things started. All right, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna paint this blade right here on this Necron. Insert the name of whatever it is. Again, I'm a Marine player. I don't know what this is, but we're gonna paint it up and we're gonna make it look good. So we're gonna make it look good. So we're gonna paint this blade right here. Now, I kind of wish that I had some bigger blades to do this on. For instance, I know this is the Scorpec Destroyer, like 99% sure. I liked doing his blade. It was, I don't want to say it was easy. Yeah, I guess I could. It was easier to do. There was a lot more space. It was easier to blend on this size space than it will be to blend here. But I'm still going to do it. I think it shouldn't be that difficult. Even on these smaller blades, it was a little difficult, but it wasn't too bad. Now, what we basically want to do with this blade is we want to make it look like this, with some dry brushing and some glazing. So what we're going to need today to do that are the following colors. We need Abaddon Black, as always, Mechanicus Standard Gray, or any dark gray really. I think, what's the other one? I can't remember it off the top of my head. And Ministratum Gray, and then Korax White and White Scar. Now this is very important. A lot of people would argue like, hey, why? They're both white, but you probably can't tell on camera, but this is a lot more gray than this. White Scar is so bright, and we're gonna use these for our edge highlights, so it's definitely important to have around. And then to finish things up and blend it all together, we have some Tesseract Glow. Now this is the new Citadel color, just came out with the Indominus box. If you wanna make these green glowing weapons, then you're gonna need this. If not, then there are some other really good technicals. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking like some Bloodletter, and actually I don't know if they make these anymore. I don't think they do, but it would probably give the same kind of effect. Lamenter's Yellow would be really good, and whatever the blue one was, what was I think? Gilliman Blue, of course. But these would also look really nice with this kind of blend, and would give some really good looking power weapons. Now the very first thing that we want to do is paint this blade black. We want a very nice base coat to work with, so it's very important just to take your time with it and make sure it's as solid as possible. We don't want any like overflow of other colors muddying up this blend that we're about to do. Now again, take your time here, because setting a good base coat is super important really with any project that you do. So now that the blade's dry, we want to start dry brushing. And to do that, we're going to use Mechanicus Standard Gray. So where we want to dry brush, let me just get a brush to show you real quick. Where we want to dry brush roughly is along this edge right here, and maybe some of this part right here. We don't want to go completely back because we still want the black to be there, but we want to cover a large area because it's so dark that you're gonna barely be able to tell it apart from the black. So to do so, grab your dry brush, and what I use are makeup brushes. A lot of people online have been suggesting to use makeup brushes for dry brushing. I jumped on the bandwagon and I absolutely love it. I think that makeup brushes are awesome for dry brushing, and they've worked very well with these Necrons. And again, just start along the edge and slowly work your way in. We're in no rush, so take your time and really try to get a nice smooth blend. Now, if you're new to dry brushing, what you do is you load some paint onto your brush, and then you get a lot of it off, almost all of it, until you're left with just a little bit. So much so that when you rub it against the surface, it barely transfers paint, and that's what you're looking to get. Now try to focus a lot of your dry brushing towards the edge, because we want our glow to go from darkest to lightest, being the edge of the blade. Now if you don't like the way that that looks and you want to do that kind of like checkered pattern that a lot of people have been doing with their Necrons, then you can always do the same exact thing, just, you know, flip it around. Like I said, just make this tutorial work for you, and if you need to switch things up, go for it. Alright, so this side is about done. Now we're going to flip to the other side and do the same thing. Alright, and this is what it should look like once you have your first dry brushing of Mechanicus Standard Gray. Next, we want to dry brush with some Administratum Gray, and we do not want to clean our brush. Wetting dry brushes, in my opinion, is detrimental to your dry brushing because the base of the bristles stay fairly wet, and what that does is you're not really doing a dry brush anymore. It starts to become quite moist, and whatever paint you add on there is wet, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to dry brush. We want very little paint to be on there. We want it to be as dry as possible. This way we can get a decent blend. And now we want to focus even closer to the edge and try not to move beyond this line that we've made between the Mechanicus Standard Gray and the Abaddon Black. Now, if you run over onto the black, that's not a big deal because we're going to do a little bit of glazing just to mesh everything together well. All right, so now that that's all done, we're gonna jump to some Corax White. And this is gonna be the last color that we dry brush, because after this, we're just gonna edge highlight with some white scar and then add on that Tesseract glow. Now with this dry brush, we really wanna stay really as close to the edge as possible. We don't wanna go anywhere near any of the other blends. Now, before you go off and say like, oh my God, Jacob, what are you doing? Why are you dry brushing near the black? It's because I like the glow to go towards the center of these weapons because they have these really cool patterns right here. And I'd imagine that wherever the glow is coming from, it's kind of emitting from these points. Now, I'm no Necron expert, but that's how I imagine it. That's how I like to see it. So that's what I'm doing. Now we can absolutely stop right here. It's not a bad blend, and with a softer makeup brush, this could definitely be better. But instead, we're gonna go a little further and do a little bit of glazing. Now to do that, we're first gonna start with some Abaddon Black. And what we want to do with this is get it very watered down. I mean, nearly transparent. You see how watered down that is. So that's about how we want it. And what we're gonna do is just focus on the areas that we want as black as possible and just work a light layer onto those areas. And the more passes you do, the darker it's going to be. So make sure that you start with a wide pass and just bring it in slowly. Now to glaze the rest of the blade, we really just want to do the same exact thing, but with each color. And you can probably skip the Mechanicus Standard Gray because we already glazed into it with the Abaddon Black, and you could probably just go right into the Administratum Gray and the Corax White. After that glazing, your blade should look somewhat like this. If it doesn't, then don't stress it. It took me a bunch of tries to get this down, and the first time I did it wasn't as smooth as I thought it would be. And it took a lot of practice because the second go was all right, but you can still see where it wasn't as smooth as it could be. Now, after doing this, I think I've done it 4 or 5 times already. It's starting to get smoother and smoother, which is looking really nice. So keep at it, and if it doesn't work out the first time, then don't stress it. There's plenty of models out there to paint. And now what we want to do, just to finish things up, is do an edge highlight with some white scar. Now we want to do this along all the parts of the blade that are going to be covered with this Tesseract glow. Now that we have everything blended and edge highlighted, we can move on to the glow. So what we need to do that is some Tesseract glow, or any type of glaze that you might want to use. Now, if you are using Tesseract glow, make sure to shake it well and also water it down. The reason being is you can do this without watering it down straight out of the pot. And I think Games Workshop suggests that you use it like that. But when I did that, I really didn't like it because it was so thick. And the color is so strong that you lose a lot of the blends that you did. So it's better to work your way up, to start with a lighter layer and then progressively move up until you have the right color that you're looking for. So what I like to do is just keep a little piece of plastic handy and just throw some of this down and just drop in a bunch of water. Now what you want to do is just work your way all over the blade and be fairly light with this stuff. If you go too thick, it'll start to pool, and that's what we don't want to happen. And also, be sure to go over all of the areas that are black. You don't want to leave those out because even though you're going green over black, and you'd think it wouldn't really, matter, it wouldn't show, it makes a big difference. It definitely tints the black, and it looks more uniformed and put together. Now, after just 2 passes with that Tesseract glow, everything is blended well, and we're all done. Now, this is the part of the video where I shout out to my patrons.
And this is where I'd put a trophy. If I had one! Sorry, lost the happy, but the happy's back.
So if you'd like to become one of them and get your name shout out at the end of the video, check out the link below. And if you just want to talk about the hobby and talk about painting or whatever nonsense we're going on about, check out the link to the Discord below as well. Now let's check out this week's viewer submissions. So this model is by Sev Did a Thing, and I know he dropped in the Discord maybe I think it was a week ago, saying that it was his Primaris Librarian conversion. Now, I'm really excited to see this model because I've been wanting to do something like this for ages. I have so many Space Marine torsos, arms, and heads, but I'm actually out of legs. It's weird. For some reason, I don't think the kits give you as many legs as they do torsos, and also with the Deathwatch upgrade sprue, you get a ton of torsos, but obviously no legs. So I'm really happy with what Sev did by having him pop out of the foxhole like that, and I think it's an awesome looking model, so great job. And this submission is by CCrazy420, and I'm really digging the model case. Now those corn guys on the right hand side, I'm really excited to see them once they're completed, and I don't know what's on the left hand side. Well, whatever they are, I can't wait to see them done, but in the meantime, I really like what you have going on there, and I think you're going to need a bigger case. And this model is by Che Gevesa, and they actually contacted me a couple days ago, letting me know that they painted this model using the layering technique that I suggested in my very first video. So I'm super excited to actually see what I shared in my video used and come out as a success. So awesome job. I really like how it turned out. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this was for some kind of competition. So I wish you the best of luck, and regardless, it looks awesome. And again, feel free to share any of your work with me, both on Instagram and Facebook at The Dry Paint Pot, because I pick my favorites each week and I feature them in my upcoming videos. Now wash your brushes, clean your paint pots, and keep on painting.